You think your baby just had a nightmare. They probably did not. It is 2 in the morning. The room is still, and you are leaning over the bassinet. When it happens, your newborn's face softens into a tiny sleep smile. And then, a second later, the whole body jerks. The arms fly open. The breath catches. The baby startles half awake, as if something inside the sleep just turned against them. The obvious explanation comes fast. A sweet dream, then a bad one. That sounds reasonable. It is also probably the wrong story, because newborn sleep is not a quiet movie playing behind closed eyes. It is a nervous system under construction, and that strange sequence of smile, twitch, and startle can change the way you see not just sleep, but the earliest architecture of regulation itself. That is not random. What makes this moment so unsettling is how fast it flips your emotions. First, there is tenderness. Then, there is concern. The smile looks meaningful. The jolt looks alarming. Adults are built to read faces like messages. So the second a sleeping baby smiles, we fill it with feeling, joy, comfort, recognition. Then the body snaps. And we do the same thing in reverse. Fear, distress, interruption. But newborns are not yet using their faces the way older babies do, and their sleep is not yet the stable, protected state adults imagine when they hear the word rest. What looks emotional may still be developmental. One of the first things sleep researchers noticed when they began carefully observing newborns is that early sleep looks far more active than most parents expect. If you watch closely, you do not see a long stretch of stillness. You see fluttering eyelids, little mouth movements, irregular breathing, finger jerks, brief grimaces, stretches, and sudden starts. A parent might expect quiet sleep to look quiet. What researchers kept finding instead was activity, not failed sleep. Active sleep. Sleep is doing more than resting. Newborns spend a large portion of early life in this active state, and that matters because it changes the meaning of the whole scene. The smile is not necessarily proof of a pleasant dream in the adult sense. The jolt is not necessarily proof that something suddenly went wrong. Both can belong to the normal turbulence of a system that does not yet know how to hold one state with much elegance. Their transitions are thinner. Their arousal shifts faster. Their bodies are more reactive. So a moment that feels like a dramatic emotional reversal to you may actually be an ordinary physiological sequence. To them, newborns do not glide. They shift. The smile comes first. And it is easy to romanticize because it is so disarming. A sleeping newborn smiles, and every adult nearby wants to believe the same thing. They must be feeling something lovely. But developmental researchers have long separated these early sleep smiles from the later social smile parents wait for. In the newborn period, many of those smiles are endogenous, meaning internally generated. They arise during sleep state changes, before smiling becomes a reliable social answer to a face, a voice, or a shared exchange. The face moves before the message does. That does not make the moment less beautiful. It makes it earlier, before a baby can look at you and smile. Because you are you, the nervous system is already capable of producing pieces of the machinery that later becomes communication. The muscles move. The pattern appears. Expression begins before intention is fully online. So when you see that sleepy little grin, you are not seeing nothing. You are seeing a system practicing form before it can fully use form as meaning. This is the part most parents never hear. Then comes the jolt. And that is where the whole moment starts to feel wrong. The body kicks, twitches, or startles hard enough to break the softness of the scene. But developmental sleep research has made one thing very clear. Those little twitches are not just background noise. In early life, they may help the brain learn from the body. In studies that tracked infant sleep movements alongside brain activity, researchers found that a small twitch is often followed by patterned sensory activation. Movement goes out, information comes back, the brain signals, the body answers, the system learns. They are not just moving, they are mapping. That matters. Because a newborn does not arrive with a polished body map already stabilized. Early life is full of rough calibration, where the arm is, what the hand feels like, how movement and sensation belong together. The point is not that the baby understands any of this consciously. The point is that the nervous system is building links. A twitch may look tiny from the outside, but for an immature system, it can be useful information. What looks small may be doing bigger work. And because the system is still so raw, those internal events can spill over into a reflexive startle. A twitch happens. A state shifts. The body surges. The arms fling outward. The breath catches. The baby startles as if they were dropped through sleep for a split second. This is where many parents assume the baby felt sudden fear in the adult sense, but a newborn startle is usually not a story. It is a reflex. Fast, ancient, automatic. The body reacts before the mind could possibly narrate what happened. A reflex is faster than meaning. The Moro startle pattern is one of the clearest examples of that. A sudden change in sensation, support, or internal balance can recruit it. Arms spread, fingers open, then the body pulls back in. It looks dramatic because it is dramatic, but dramatic does not mean dangerous. It often means the alarm system is easy to trigger because the regulation system is still immature. That is why a baby can look deeply peaceful 1 second and abruptly overwhelmed the next. Regulation begins in fragments. On its own, a newborn smiling in sleep, twitching, startling, or briefly waking does not usually mean something is wrong. Active sleep is often expressive, irregular, and unexpectedly busy. Every baby develops on their own timeline. But if movements seem strongly repetitive, clearly one-sided, unusually clustered, or show up often during calm wakefulness too, especially with feeding trouble, color change, breathing concern, or unusual unresponsiveness, it is worth raising with a pediatric professional, not because one moment is alarming, but because patterns matter more than isolated scenes. Now the emotional meaning of the moment changes, because the most important part is not just the smile, and it is not just the jolt. It is what happens after. Newborns do not regulate well alone. Across early development research, one pattern appears again and again. Very young infants settle through borrowed stability, through being held, through warmth, through containment, through rhythmic voice, through repeated sensory patterns that help the body come back down. You are not just soothing them, you are lending them regulation. That line matters because many parents think the mystery is entirely inside the baby, as if the important event happened before the eyes opened. But the return is part of the story too. The baby startles, then your hand arrives. The breath is uneven, then your voice stays steady. The body floods with arousal. Then the world becomes patterned again. For a nervous system, that sequence matters. Safety is first learned as sequence. Something rises, and something helps it fall. That pattern becomes familiar before it becomes understood. Long before a baby can explain anything, the body is already collecting experiences of escalation, followed by settling, not perfect settling, not instant settling, just the repeated lesson. That alarm is not the end of the story. This is how regulation begins. That is why the opening scene deserves a bigger interpretation than cute smile, bad jolt. What you are witnessing is several early developmental systems colliding inside a single minute, active sleep, internally generated facial expression, sensory motor twitching, primitive startle reflex, and then co-regulation. It feels eerie because it is dense. There is more happening in that tiny scene than the surface can hold. The jolt does not ruin the moment. It reveals it. When researchers began separating newborn sleep expressions from later social behavior, it changed how we understood the sleeping face. When developmental work on sleep twitches suggested those tiny movements may help organize early body maps, it changed how we understood sleeping limbs. And when decades of work on early caregiver responsiveness kept showing that young infants settle through patterned support, it changed how we understood the role of the adult nearby. The parent is not standing outside the process. The parent is inside it. You are not just there. You are part of the architecture. That does not mean every bassinet startle is a grand event. It means ordinary moments can still be foundational. The smile matters because expression starts before social intention matures. The twitch matters because the brain is still learning the body. The startle matters because reflexes are strong and internal smoothing is weak, and your response matters because the newborn cannot yet carry the full burden of calming alone. They cannot hold the whole wave yet. So you help hold it. You steady the chest. You soften the sound in the room. You become a rhythm the body can settle against. Not perfectly, not every time, but often enough for the nervous system to begin learning what happens after alarm. That is the deeper reframe. The baby is not failing at sleep. The baby is moving through early development in one of its messiest, most revealing forms. The baby is not performing peace. They are building it, so the next time it happens. The room dim, the bassinet still, that tiny smile appearing from nowhere, and the whole body jerking. A second later, you may not read the same story. You may still feel the tenderness first. You may still flinch when the arms fly open, but you will know that what looked eerie was not empty. What looked chaotic was not meaningless. What looked like a sweet dream turning bad may have been something far deeper and far more physical. A newborn system moving through active sleep, testing expression, mapping movement, triggering reflex, and reaching for help, returning to safety. They are not just sleeping, they are organizing. They are not just startling, they are showing you how unfinished regulation still is. They are not just waking, they are learning what happens after the alarm. And when you steady them, you are not interrupting development. You are becoming part of the pattern their nervous system will learn to trust.